Welcome to Conversations That Illuminate, a Global Lightworkers United podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Andina, and one of the co-creators of Global Lightworkers United, a 501c3 nonprofit whose mission is to unite and empower lightworkers globally by building a supportive, loving community. When we say lightworker, we mean anyone who feels called to bring more healing, compassion, and consciousness into the world. This podcast is a space for real, heart-centered conversations with everyday lightworkers, all who are members of Global Lightworkers United. People who are finding their way, their courage, and their light in a very human world. In each episode, we simply follow where our guest story wants to go, how their light first showed up, how it's moved through their life, and what it's inviting them into now. Toward the end, I'll also ask them for a little everyday spark, a small joy or practice that help keeps their light nourished in daily life. Today's guest is Dr. Elizabeth Ssemanda. She is a holistic psychiatrist, energy healer, and the voice behind Stepping into Soul Power, a podcast where science meets the sacred. With a background in epidemiology and clinical trials, she bridges the precision of medicine with the wisdom of the soul. As a mother, healer, and life coach, Dr. Elizabeth is on a mission to show the world that true healing happens when you honor both the data and the divine. Elizabeth and I met in an online mediumship course, and the minute her face appeared in one of those little Zoom boxes, I recognized a kindred spirit. Well, Elizabeth, it's my honor to welcome you to Conversations That Illuminate.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
So happy. So, Elizabeth, I'm really looking forward to our discussion today about the role of both evidence and the divine in healing and healthcare. But first, I'd love to have a sense of what your early life was like, and especially the path that you chose and some of the rationale behind those choices that resulted in you being a graduate of some of the best schools in the country, Brown and Johns Hopkins, and to being a board-certified psychiatrist. So what was little Elizabeth like?
So I grew up in my parents are Ugandan. They actually are refugees. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Idi Amin situation in Uganda. There was like a huge genocide, and for various it's really interesting, but both of them ended up in the DC area, and that's where they met. And when you have parents who are immigrants, they've got this like work ethic, and I feel like I was a sponge as a kid, and I soaked it up. And for them, the big thing was education. That education was really, really important. And so I really put a lot of myself into that, and I loved it. I am someone that is a lifelong learner. I'll probably end up taking courses for the rest of my life, but I find that the sciences and understanding why people do the things that they do really speaks to me. And so I was focused and really enjoyed connecting with people and caregiving. And so I've had a couple of jobs. So in high school, I was a nursing assistant, and then I'm also interested in research. So I interned at NIH in Bethesda. And
while you were in high school?
Yeah, well, man, I worked. That immigrant work hard mentality was ingrained in me. And so, yeah, I think I started working when I was 14. And something else about my family is that my mom was like the primary person who was raising us. My dad, he had his other, he's doing his own thing, but he raised us. And so, money was a little bit tight. And so I liked having the money. And so I got a job early on. And I've been working for a long, For a long time. For a long time.
I was just wondering, were you always drawn more, though, to the scientific side of things when you were younger? Is that what interested you more?
I loved all of it. I'll be honest. There's even a part of me that I enjoy history and the art. And, so there is that part of me, and that part of me is coming out now that I've done, now that I've spent a lot of time in medicine and the sciences, that part is asking to be heard. So I think this next phase of my life is going to incorporate more of that. Um, but yeah, I was, and am still very driven. So I think that's a product of my upbringing. And also I think that I've seen a lot of good things that can happen when you're able to, I think with having a great education. And so, I've been driven to do so. So yeah, and Brown, I was very attracted or had been for a long time. And it's really interesting because when I was young, like there are people in my life who told me like, you want to go to Brown? And why do you think you're going to do that? But I wanted to do it and I did it. And I was driven. I aced the SATs. I got like straight A's. I was very, very ambitious. Very ambitious.
Well, because Brown's interesting because it's one of the more, I mean, it's considered 100% an Ivy League school, but it's one of the more liberal arts schools.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I never really thought of it as a big science school. I mean, I know they have a medical school there, but it still was always for me very liberal arts. No.
Yeah, liberal arts. So I got into a lot of great schools, but I chose Brown because of just every school has a field, right? And when you go to Brown, they make you feel like you can do anything, and they're there to change the world. That's the feel, and I'm like, oh, this it sounds like what I'm trying to do, and so yeah, I really loved it there, and I know that they're not as hardcore as like Harvard or Yale but they fit me. It fit me. The people that were there fit me, and that's the experience that I wanted to have. And so I'm very grateful for Brown and all the kind of people that go there are the people that I'm trying to hang out with. So yeah, but even that was a huge transition as a Black woman.
I can only imagine that you were definitely blazing, some trails there. So, but on the other hand, I love that they were probably very open to the fact that you were from immigrant parents and had that kind of a background. And that's one of the beautiful things about Brown. It's my kids also were thinking about going to Brown. They ended up at Georgetown, but it's it's internationally inclusive. It's very international school, large international student population. So, but what led you then toward medicine and then specifically towards specializing in psychiatry? Was there a moment when you knew that was your path? I mean, especially because psychiatry to me, it sits at such an interesting crossroads. It's like one of those branches of medicine that, you have to reckon with the invisible, right? It's not, you can't, there's not like a lot of, not like a lot of evidence necessarily, right?
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll get to that. I think medicine I think for a long time, when I was in kindergarten, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. Like I knew, I remember someone asking me and I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. I think I had an idea of what medicine was in my head. That it wasn't the real, when you get there, you're like, you get the real deal of what's going on. But I had an idea of what I thought it was, that you really are there to help people and, connect with them and heal. And so I had an idea in my head and that's what I was going for. I actually wasn't clear. I think I went in open to whatever type of medicine. But I like psychiatry because there was like depth. Like you really, really got to know people in a way that like their spouses don't even know them. And then I also thought it was really fulfilling because when you connect with someone and when you help or like facilitate whatever you know, transformation that they're going through, I saw it ripple into like their family life, into their work life, and it's just such a beautiful thing. I think someone asked me that question when I was in kindergarten. I remember someone asking me, "What do you want to be?" And I like instantly said, "Oh, I'm going to be a doctor." And and I had this strong like conviction. Maybe that was spirit talking. Plenty things there. But I enjoyed connecting with people. I enjoyed the caregiving. I enjoyed seeing people transform. Um, and I was very driven, and I knew because my family didn't have a lot of money, and so I knew I had to like excel. I had to do really well because I wasn't trying to have, you understand the education system in the United States. It is incredibly expensive, and so I did really really well and get straight A's and got a lot of scholarships. Got the Bill Gates Millennium Scholarship. So with that, you could
Oh,
like go
wow.
anywhere. Yeah, that freed me to do a lot of different things. Um, and I got into Brown has like a pre-med and a medical school combination, and so I got into that. As long as you have the grades, like you can go to medical school, and so I was so driven. Um, really, really driven. Along the way, though, I think I had mentioned that I did research at NIH. The research was also, I love asking questions. And so I worked as a research assistant when I was in undergrad. I met uh, m- um, one of the best, like, principal investigators. I'll put her out there. and at Brown and worked under her. And did like bachelor's and then a master's and then was in medical school and um, actually took a leave of absence. Applied for she was at Hopkins, right? And so I applied to go to Hopkins to do a PhD. Yeah, because like I had that research, really, really interested in that, and so did that in 3 years at Hopkins. I know when I'm focused, I'm focused. And,
So you PhD in 3 years at Hopkins. Wow.
I know I remember someone was like, "Well, the average is 5." And I was like, "Oh, I can do better than 5."
Me 10 to do mine at Columbia. 10.
Yeah, I was very, very driven, so driven. And now that I'm a psychiatrist, I look back and I'm like, "Oh man, there's like some childhood. There's some stuff there that you need to work through there about being good enough and all." So I'm looking through all of that now. But I was super, just very, very driven. And I think the big turning point for me was um, sometimes you have an idea of what you think the job is going to be like, and then you get there and you're like, oh, you know, and, and I realized, when I was getting my PhD that all the principal investigators, all they were doing a lot of times is they're so focused on getting grants like that. And then everyone else does the work. You hire all the people and they do all the work. Um, and I miss like connecting with people and the healing component of it. And so I, finished up, I finished up my MD at Brown, applied, went to the University of Michigan and Harvard, did a psychiatry, residency. And I love psychiatry because you just really, really get to know people in such a deep way. And I thought it was so transformative that when you help someone or you're with them through the journey, you hold space and they change their mindset or they learn certain skills, it's how everything else in their world transforms. Um, their physical health transforms, like mental health is connected to physical health and spiritual health. And it was beautiful to be able to start to understand that and help people through that. Um, and Michigan was great. I think they trained me really well. I felt really competent and ready to practice.
And then what was it that shifted? I mean, was there, because obviously, so you did psychiatry for a number of years. You're still doing psychiatry today, but something inside you shifted. I mean, you went from, being a board certified psychiatrist to what you refer to as a holistic healer and soul guide. I mean, that didn't happen overnight. So was there a specific?
No, it didn't. So remember when I said that I think you go into things with a certain idea of like what it is, right? And I think that I think that there's a lot of great things about allopathic medicine, but I think there's a lot of things there's some things that are missed. And I found that, a lot of psychiatry right now is just medication management, which is kind of like putting a bandage over things. And I'm really interested in truly helping people and getting to the root causes. So I started exploring other ways of feeling, other systems. I took so many different classes and also because my patients were asking questions and I wanted to really, help them. And some things, you know, some, there are many ways to help people heal. And I truly believe that, it needs to be a partnership. There needs to be full to full connection. There needs to be an appreciation for the knowledge that clients, patients come with. And, so, yeah, I think, I think I had gotten to maybe it was like around 2019 or so. I got to a point where I was like, I made a lot of money and I'm in this job and I have a great relationship, but I just wanted to, I don't know, something had to change. And then I also met someone who, I went for a mind, body, spirit expo in Austin. And this guy came up to me and, told me that I was a medium. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know who you are. That is so weird.
Heard the story yet.
Oh, that story. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. And I just thought, I think I was really, at the time, I was really interested in intuition. And, I had found what was really interesting is I had taken a course, uh, there's someone by the name of Jeffrey Allen. I took his course and I was doing the things that he had taught in the course. And I was looking at the ER too. I found that, oh my God, when I do these things, I have a wonderful day. And everyone else in the ER, has a great, it's just so beautiful. Like the energy just shifted. And so I was fine tuning my intuition. And it was getting stronger. And so he was teaching a workshop on intuition at the expo. And so I went to the workshop that he was teaching and he said, okay, well, I'm going to read some volunteers. And then he looked at me and then he said a lot of things about me that no, I don't talk to anybody, but I was getting read. And then I was like, okay, this is interesting. And so that got me I was, I guess, put on this path of somehow I was just meeting people and the people I needed to meet, and taking different courses and developing, and we met in the mediumship course, um, developing different skills. And, and so right now it's a really interesting situation, because I think I told you, I'm really interested in that soul to soul connection. And, so I think that's going to be my focus.
So what I'm sort of wondering about, because I think into the present moment, I sort of like to better understand, what your work actually looks like today. It seems to me that the medical model has been almost exclusively very evidence-based, right, for generations. And today, doctors, therapists, and especially psychiatrists, operate under pretty strict licensing laws, and with the constant threat even of lawsuits. So I'm curious as to how you're able to practice what you're referring to, as a holistic psychiatry. I mean, I know you still give medications, but if you start pulling out your tarot cards, or you start doing a reading for someone, how does that fly?
I do. So what I did was I separated the two, and I had one practice that focused primarily on psychiatry, right? So the medication management, the therapy, that sort of thing, and then another side, which is coaching, and where I could be a little more open, because coaching is not regulated the way that other things are regulated, and that's how you can get around that. I think I'm going to be me regardless of whatever setting I'm put in. I think that if you go to someone who is a psychiatrist but is a coach, like I'm still gonna know the psychiatric, like, oh, this looks like bipolar disorder, this looks like versus like, oh, this is uh this is substance use issue, or like medication, like that is still in the background. Like I have that knowledge.
Absolutely. Makes you
Yeah.
a fantastic doctor, because for me, you're combining both. You've got both all that medical knowledge, and then you've got these humanistic skills, which are the ones that are the intuition, that gift of intuition. Brilliant.
Yeah, and I want to say this. I feel like we've got our history messed up, because I think that when we look back at the past, the people who were the healers were people who were incredibly intuitive. They were getting their knowledge from somewhere, and I think we have to go back to honoring that. And that's why I'm also just so passionate about medical intuition, because I think that we all have these beautiful innate gifts that we've been like bestowed, and like they're not being used because this stuff isn't or like maybe they are being used, but like not the way that they could be. Like there's so much potential for us to really help people hone the beautiful aspects of who they are. Like, could you imagine if there was a medical school out there where you really looked at you, like who you were, and we helped you really be the best you could be, whatever gifts you have. So I think, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in our future if we do some soul searching. I do believe though that research and science can be helpful. I just think that there's like a place for intuition, and there's a place for evidence-based practice. I think, and then thinking, I think this idea that, there is a science behind intuition as well. So I think, we're living in an interesting time, and I'm glad to be a part of this.
This is the joys of balancing motherhood and having a professional career. But I love actually seeing this play out in real life. Throughout centuries, indigenous cultures have sought healing and guidance from the spirit world, right? And especially in mental health, medication and the pharmaceutical world have become the new healer gods. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about your model or paradigm under which you're working. And you said it beautifully. You're combining that. So, but say more about that.
Yeah, I feel like there is a place for both. I think that if God, force, whatever you want to, if we're here, right, there is a place for both, right? We just need to remember the value of using our own faculty, getting to understand who we are, that we are all, in my opinion, I feel like we're all healers. We heal each other. We heal ourselves as we interact with this beautiful world. And, but I feel like intuition, what I love about it is, if it's like, it is honoring that connection with you, your spirit, your body. Like when you're fine tuning it, you are really getting to kind of get at some of the things that really, that are important, that I think sometimes society glosses over. So there's a place for both. I appreciate, like, I appreciate both. I think in this next phase, I'm bringing together like this ancient wisdom. I really am, and I've been trying to think about, how can I best do that? Like ancient wisdom with what the medical science says, like bringing it together.
Well, that would be one of the things I wanted you to ask you a little bit because, as part of GLUE, as one of our very important members of Global Lightworkers United, so a question that's very close to my heart is, what role do you believe lightworkers, I mean, people who often have no medical training at all, but, who are natural, gifted healers, intuits, etc., can play in shifting this whole paradigm? First in their own healing journeys, and then perhaps even in a broader culture? Do you see that as possible?
I absolutely think that's possible. I feel like there are light workers everywhere. I feel like they're planted. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily. I think that they're planted in all kinds of places. I'll say that, not just outside the system. Some are actually in the system and are bright lights. And I can think of some of my friends who are like, "Oh, you're planted there." I I think that some people are supposed to stand out because we're all like, um, in psychiatry, like, uh, there is this, um, thing we talk about. It's like mirroring, right? Like we're like reflections. A lot of the relation, I think that sometimes when we're there, we get people to start questioning a lot of what's going on around, like, and also start questioning uh, themselves. Yeah, what's going around and then questioning themselves. So I honestly feel like one of the missions here is to work on ourselves, um, and um, and I also believe that we are all connected, and so when we work on ourselves, the world around us will reflect that. Um, I feel like that's
Yes.
probably the first part.
Radiates out. radiates out, right?
Yeah, yes, yes.
I
Yeah,
feel that healing we do with it radiates out to members of our family, members of our
absolutely.
circle.
Y- Yes, yes, I truly believe that. I think that probably, because I feel like there's a lot of self-sacrificing. Like, I think we truly can, because I think we're the type of people that, like, we will help everybody. And I'm so guilty of it, like, really wanting to just, and I care deeply for other people. I'm so empathetic that I really want to help. But we cannot neglect ourselves and our needs in that process. And so, first, deal with your own stuff, heal your stuff. And because you're just so naturally empathetic and thoughtful, like you will have that much energy to be the best person, whatever, or do whatever activities really speak to your heart, your spirit. Um, that's what I would say about that.
Very good. So before I let you go, Elizabeth, I always love to bring our conversation sort of, back down to earth and to the everyday human being who's listening right now, who may be somewhere in the midst of their own healing journey. I'm wondering what helps a busy person like Dr. Elizabeth. I mean, what is your everyday spark? What is the one thing you do for yourself that helps to keep that spark, that joy alive in you on a daily basis?
I think I spend a lot of time. I like to spend time outside every single day. So taking a walk. But then I also do things while I like to do fun things. And, and while I'm doing those, I also like to kind of test things out, with people and state things that I want to see in the world. And so one thing I like to do is, so, just tell myself something wonderful is going to happen today. Something, and just keep thinking that something wonderful is going to happen today. And something wonderful usually does happen every
It happens.
happen.
That's
Um
beautiful.
yeah, yeah. It's amazing. And then sometimes I think
That's a
to other people. Pardon me?
beautiful spark. That's a
Oh yeah.
beautiful spark.
Oh yeah, thanks, yeah. Yeah,
So
very
before I forget, one thing I know I don't want to forget. So your fourth season of your podcast, Stepping into Soul Power, is coming. And I'm wondering, what can listeners look forward to and where can they find you and your work?
I'm gonna bring in a little bit more of the more studies, more of the science, because I think that's important. I think that sometimes we like to believe that some of the healing modalities don't have any research. So I think I'm bringing in more of that because there's actually a lot of research. We just don't talk about it. There's going to be a lot more research in upcoming seasons, and so people are clear on the evidence of some of the healing modalities that might be helpful as far as empowering yourself and your spirit. And you can find me on Instagram, via Elizabeth Ssemanda. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, I do a pretty good job.
We will put your contacts also in the show notes. Thank you so much. This has been absolutely a beautiful, fascinating conversation. You are just such a fascinating woman. And I have so much respect and admiration for you and for your journey and for the work that you're doing. So I believe your story is an inspiration to each and every one of us to find our own internal light and spark and to shine it out in the world in whatever creative ways we can. Despite working in a rather confining environment of psychiatry, Elizabeth, you're living your passion of bringing heart, soul, and spirit to the everyday practice of modern psychiatric medicine. And as you're really a trailblazer in the field, your courage and intuition are guiding your own path ahead. And it's a path, I believe, that could slowly change medical care around the world. I believe that. So to all of our listeners, please remember your light belongs everywhere you are, including and especially in your work. And the path to finding it doesn't require you to be someone different. It simply asks you to become more fully who you already are. Trust what lights you up. Trust the calling that lives quietly inside you. And that is your authentic self, pointing you toward your purpose. And please remember, you don't have to walk this path alone. That is exactly why Global Lightworkers United exists, to walk it together, to hold each other's light when our own feels dim, and to remind one another that what the world needs, what only each of us uniquely can bring. So come and join us soon at Global Lightworkers United. This has been Conversations That Illuminate, a Global Lightworkers United podcast. Until next time, I'm Michelle, and I thank you for being the beautiful light that you are.